Greetings. Welcome to Sick Flick. Thank you for coming to the first episode. It feels weird because technically I already did this episode, but this will be the first time you're hearing it. But I feel weird because I already did this episode and I went and said everything I felt like I needed to say, and then technology failed me. So we're back here doing it again. But for you, it's the first time. And it's the first episode. So thank you for coming to the first episode. Thank you for listening or watching if you are. And I'm excited to finally get this out there and to talk about what we're going to be talking about. So today I decided to dedicate this episode to Miss Rona because, this is the reason why we're here, essentially. This is the reason why we're doing all of this. So I want to give a special thanks to Miss Rona and dedicate this episode to her. And today we're going to be talking about our quarantine watch list. So this is exciting. But first, we're going to talk about what is happening in the industry. So what I have for you today is the Cannes Film Festival canceled, kind of, possibly, their physical festival, which even I, reporting the news, which maybe this is not a good sign, but even I am very confused about what's going on. So apparently, the Cannes Film Festival has decided to do, I guess, their festival online. They have screenings that they're going to put out digitally. They're also going to have workshop and professional meetings and stuff like that. But they have decided to go online this year. I'm hearing things about the language that they're using behind it is confusing, I guess, because some news sources are saying it's canceled, some are saying it's postponed. They're using it interchangeably. They're not the same. So I'm kind of confused myself, but it seems as though the physical festival will not be happening. So Cannes Film Festival is canceled, but they're trying to do it digitally. I don't know what that's going to look like for other festivals. I know that the Atlanta Film Festival, which it's supposed to happen a few weeks before the Cannes Film Festival did, and the Cannes Film Festival was supposed to start the 12th. So, but the Atlanta Film Festival pushed theirs back to, I think, September. So it's like some festivals are still postponed. Some of them have canceled. I don't know which other ones have canceled, but I'm interested to see how that will affect, I guess, the distribution of movies going forward. Because a lot of movies that come out of the Cannes Film Festival are a lot of the movies that go for, being nominated for Oscars and stuff like that. And since they're generally sticking to the same time frame as, they would have if they had started when they were supposed to, I don't see that being much of a big deal. But also, the Oscars is up for debate because movies are up for debate right now. But I'm really sad about it happening because I wish I could have gone, but it is what it is. So that's what our entertainment news of the week segment is. I still have not decided on what I want to name it. I'm looking for suggestions. Please suggest something. And yeah, so let's get to the actual episode. I've been watching a lot of things since being in quarantine, and I've actually enjoyed quite a bit. The first few weeks of quarantine, I wasn't liking the movies I was watching. I don't know what was going on. I just wasn't picking a very good, batch, I guess, or everything just ended up being okay for me. But this last few weeks have been really good, and I've been watching a lot of stuff that I really, really like. So yeah, I started off my quarantine watching some movies, and I actually decided to rewatch The Night Of on HBO. And I had seen it when it came out, and I really loved it. And I knew that it was, I could remember it being really good. And so I decided to watch it again, and I'm so glad that I did because it was phenomenal. It's really good and well written, and it's just, yeah, it's just so good. I loved everything about it. I think the acting is phenomenal. The writing and directing is fantastic. The last episode is so good, especially between like the main character and I forget his name. But like that guy, if you watch it, that guy and like between him and the main character, that guy, and that guy, really great. But yeah, I watched that. Absolutely loved it. And then think I started watching True Detectives, which I only watched the first season because I knew that the first season has been like considered the best. And I never actually finished the first season. I also started watching it when it first came out, but I think I fell behind after like the midway point, like after I think the fourth episode, I kind of just stopped watching it for whatever reason and never kind of went back. And so when I started rewatching TV shows, I was like, oh, I really want to watch True Detective because I want to see what happens at the end. And I didn't, like, I had forgotten how good it was. Like, phenomenally good it was. I was just so taken aback by it because I was watching it and I was like this is amazing. And honestly and truly, after having seen it, I feel like it's one of the best like seasons of a TV show ever, I would say. I just think that it's written so well. It's so smart too, which I mean like I guess you can expect from HBO cuz I don't know, I think HBO brings out some of the best TV shows like of all times. Um and you know, I feel like you're just bound to like whatever HBO comes out with in some way shape or form. So yeah, that TV show was amazing. And I it made me start to have like a miniature obsession with Matthew McConaughey like after watching that because I love his character in True Detective. And so like I've just been like on a Matthew McConaughey kick for whatever reason. Yeah, but it was really good. And I know a few people were mad about how it ended, which I'm gonna spoil how it ended for this part, I guess. But yeah, some people were mad about how it ended because they were mad that one Cole, which is Matthew McConaughey's character, um, they're mad that he doesn't die. Which, like, when I was watching people talk about it or like you know reading reviews or whatever, I could understand at first where they were coming from, but then like the more I thought about it, I was like, no, I feel like the ending they gave us was actually like the perfect ending you could get. And so some people were mad that Cole didn't die because like I guess they just felt like that's what needed to happen. But I feel like in this TV show where everything's kind of very bleak and things don't just happen the way that people want them to in a sense, um Cole not dying kind of like it ironically just fits the show because in episode 1 he talks to Woody Harrelson's character, which I forget his name. I think it's Hart, but he talks to Hart about how like he believes that the best thing for humanity to do is to like walk hand in hand into extinction and something like that. And you know, Woody Harrelson's character is like, well then, like, why don't you just off yourself essentially? And he's like, well, you know, it's in our programming. It's like human nature to stay alive and to try and fight to stay alive and stuff like that. And so he says at the beginning of the season that like the best thing to happen to him and the best thing that like he could do for everybody else is to die essentially. And so when you get to the final episode and we're at that moment where he's literally on the brink of death and like in the most obvious way too, like you would watch that scene and you're like there's no way anybody should have made it Like there's no way that he should be alive. And so when he is alive, you're like, this does not make any sense. But then he himself is like, I should not be here because like I could feel myself dying. And there was a moment where, I was ready and I accepted like death and I let myself go and I just didn't die. And so he's like, he kind of alludes to this. I wouldn't say even like higher power or higher being, but he kind of alludes to like maybe there's something beyond me because in my time of, when I should have died, I couldn't. Something beyond me kept me alive. And so, people were mad that he didn't die. And they're also mad that, while he's talking about how it's crazy that he didn't die, he kind of comes more towards this belief that maybe there's something else besides him. Maybe like alluding to a deity or a higher power or whatever. He doesn't say exactly, which I think is good. But, people were mad that he kind of shed his nihilistic beliefs. But I also feel like that made sense too, because it's like I said, like if he's this close to death and he let himself go, but he couldn't die himself, like I feel like anybody would be like, well, then what was keeping me alive? And I don't know, like I just felt like the ending was perfect. I was happy with it. I felt like it was a good way of not giving you or Matthew McConaughey's character the full satisfaction of like him dying and kind of folding into this nihilistic atheistic belief, but not in a way where you felt like he denounced his entire character or in a way that you felt like he kind of like betrayed himself um in the TV show, if that makes sense. But I don't know, I felt like the ending was perfect. And I love like the entire season. I like the atmosphere. I like, obviously the acting is always amazing and the directing is really nice, especially the the fourth episode. They have like towards the end of the episode, I think it's actually like the last part of the episode. There's a long take and it's like, I don't know, 5+ minutes long, and it is so action packed, which is like it's unbelievable when you like actually start to look at it. You realize that it's a long take, and in it being action packed and it being a long take, it feels so like it puts you at the edge of your seat because you feel like you're watching this crazy thing in real time. You feel like you're literally in this scene with them, and it just feels more realistic. But yeah, that scene, chef's kiss. So the fourth episode was amazing. The fifth episode was amazing, and then the last episode, which is the eighth episode. Those three, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, and it's just so good. I Yeah, it's just so good. So I watched that, loved it. I don't have any desire to watch the other two seasons. I know that they're good, but I know that they're not as good as the first one. And I can't get over the fact that like Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey aren't in it. So I have no desire to watch it from that. But yeah, I watched that. It was absolutely amazing. Then I went on to watch Big Little Lies because I don't know. I just felt like watching another TV show because I don't really watch TV shows that much. I'm usually just like a movie gal, and I usually just like to watch movies because I feel like I don't know. I never care to subject myself to like the longevity that is watching a TV show. But now I have all the time in the world, so I might as well watch a few TV shows. And sometimes it's nice to like I see TV shows as like a bunch of different movies, and I'll watch a TV show. Like what draws me mostly to a TV show is like the idea that I'm watching a bunch of different movies that all have the same general like scheme or sense. So I never feel like like I if I feel like watching a comedy, I can watch a TV show that feels like seven different movies that are all comedies, you know? Whereas like if I'm just watching movies, the energy spikes from each movie. So I could watch one movie that's like a drama and it's not that dramatic and not that sad, and then like I can go to like a comedy, and then like the next movie I would go to, it's complete tragedy. And sometimes I don't want to do that. Sometimes I just want to watch an 8-hour season of just pure comedy. I just want to spend my entire day watching pure comedy. And I like putting TV shows in the place of wanting to watch bulk movies that I haven't seen before, that I know the energy of them going forward. You know? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. But anyways, regardless, I started watching Big Little Lies. And I didn't think I would like watching wealthy, privileged white women go through wealthy, privileged white women problems. But I actually did, to my own surprise. And it was actually pretty good. I was really sad when it ended because I thought that there were 3 seasons. And so, like, the second season ended, and I loved how the second season ended. And I was like, okay, I'm ready to go to the next season. And there was no third season to greet me. And so I was very distraught by that. It took me a couple of days to recover. But nonetheless, I still enjoyed the first 2 seasons. It does kind of make itself believed to be, I guess, more heavier in content. I don't know if that makes sense. Like the energy of it is a bit, I think it leads itself to be a bit heavier than it actually is. It is a drama. The start of the season kind of alludes to a murder. So there is like a murder slash death aspect to the TV show. But a lot of the TV show isn't focused on that murder. It's focused on wealthy, rich white women going through those problems. But it's still interesting, both with the murder and just talking about the women, just because, I don't know. I like dramas that they don't have to, there's not a lot going on. Like, I like people just talking and drama ensues. And that's exactly what happens. So, but yeah, it was really good. I'm kind of sad that it ended, and I don't know if or when it will resurface again. I know that they were approved for like a third season, but it had like the second season I think just came out like a few months ago, and so they're still in the early process of like scheduling to see if they can actually do the third season. Like they haven't even started filming, I don't think. So we'll see if it ever gets picked back up. But I kind of needed to, because the way that the second season ended, like I want to see what happens after this. But also like I can see them ending it there as a way of like not wanting to confront the aftermath. And it would still be good, so I'm conflicted. Like I really want to see more, but I could be content with that being the end of the season or the end of the TV show. Especially because I think it was only supposed to go to the first season. It was supposed to be a limited series, but they, I guess, got a really good reception and they picked it back up for a second season. So it's all up in the air, but I still really enjoyed watching it. It was still a really great TV show. So yeah, after that, I kind of started watching movies again. I came back to my senses, and one of the movies that I first started watching at like the beginning of quarantine, that also lended to me discovering a new life path that I need to go down, which results in me buying a French chateau. This movie helped me find another aspect of my life dream to incorporate, if that makes sense. First of all, I found these people, like these British or English people on YouTube, And they bought a French chateau and were restoring it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to buy a French chateau. So now I realize that everything I need to do in my life has to result in me buying a French chateau. And then I watched this movie called Uncorked. And it's on Netflix and it's really good. And it's about a guy who wants to become a sommelier. But his father owns a like barbecue restaurant essentially. And he wants him to take over the restaurant when, he gets older and stuff like that. But the son doesn't want to because he wants to become a sommelier. And one, that movie's really good. Two, it made me start thinking about my French chateau dream. And I was like, whoa, I need to buy my French mansion, but also I should start a winery. So I'm not going to say that that's my official dream. I'm not going to say that that's essentially what I'm going to start doing for the rest of my life. But just know that like I'm buying a French chateau. And I might have a winery in my backyard. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. But anyways, back to Uncorked. Yeah, it was a really good movie. I actually really loved it. There are some aspects of it that I don't really care that much for, especially like the lack of time the film spends with its female characters. They could have been fleshed out a lot more, but I do think the movie does still a pretty good job of giving them some like humanity and characterization. I just wish that they were in there and given more time than they are. But I think the movie is still really good. It's written and directed by a writer, director, producer of Insecure. I'm not sure exactly what his role is, but I know that he has his hands in Insecure. And I think he does do some of like the writing and directing, definitely. I'm not 110% sure if he is like a producer of the show, but I feel like maybe he is. But anyways, he wrote and directed this, and you do see a lot of similarity between this movie and Insecure, especially with like the way that they transition between scenes. A lot of the transitions are like B-roll of the setting and then like contemporary music on top, which is like Insecure's like signature move. So that was interesting to see and to make that parallel. But I still think it's a really good movie. I think it's like his debut, his directorial debut, and I was really interested in the storyline. I feel like the plot was really good. I think it was handled very well. The movie, for the most part, is really interesting. It can drag a bit, I think, just because the subject matter or like the general premise of the movie is pretty bare bone. And because like there's not a lot that goes, well, there is, but like there's not a lot of variety that goes into becoming a sommelier from what the film portrays. So after a while, you can kind of get a bit bored. But I don't think that the movie overall is boring in any sense of the word. I think it's very much pretty interesting. But yeah, I really like that movie. It's been one of those movies that I've actually come back to a lot. It's pretty comforting, if I might say, even though there are some like really sad moments in it. But yeah, I watched that and it was really good. And then I watched this phenomenal movie, which I'll just say, first and foremost, in this household, we stand Selah in the Spades, point blank period, and that's on black teens, and that's on black teen representation. Okay, I watched Selah in the Spades. Phenomenal movie. A plus plus. We love, we stand. Yeah, that movie came out a few weeks ago as well. It's on Prime, and I watched it, and it was just so good. It's about this girl named Selah, and she's the leader of the Spades, which she goes to a boarding school, and in this boarding school, there are different factions, as they call them, and they're kind of just like different groups that facilitate in one way or another in some sort of illegal activity. So there's one group that is like the administrator's pet, but they shield the administrative from knowing all the other things that are going on. There's another faction that helps students cheat. So if they want to get an exam or write a paper, they'll help them cheat on that. There's another group that does illegal like partying, I guess. Like I think they do like fake IDs and stuff like that. And then there are the Spades, and they do drugs. So they help distribute or sell drugs, I guess of any variety really. And so Selah is the leader of the Spades. But um, the movie starts with her being in her senior year of high school. She's actually in her last semester. And so she's trying to find like a little prodigy to take over her role as like leader. But she can't find anybody. And then in walks Miss Paloma, and the movie kind of centers itself around um Selah trying to show Paloma the ropes and trying to show her how to become a leader to eventually give her the spades to continue on her legacy. And I just found it to be so interesting. I mean, I love movies or TV shows where like kids or teens are participating in like a faux government in a way. So like the TV show on Netflix called The Society, they essentially have to mimic like a government. I love that TV show, and to me, Selling the Spades felt a lot like that, or it fit into the that kind of category of like kids pretending to be in this faux government, you know, because it's like there are these factions, they do this, they do that, they have their. So yeah, and it was really good. And also, which I'm gonna try and not talk about it as much as possible in other episodes, because at some point I'm going to dedicate at least an entire episode to talking about Miss Moonlight. Just so you know, just so that you're warned. But I do have to say one thing about it, at least in this episode. And it is a factual statement, an objective statement, but Moonlight set a precedent, a new precedent for the way that black filmmakers light and just generally set up a scene for black actors or the black subject. And I can definitely see how in this movie they kind of follow that same precedent, because it is so beautifully lit, and so beautifully staged, and the cinematography is great, the color grading is great, but like especially how it showcases its black actors is, I think, beautiful. I think it's so beautiful. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. So I really love that. The acting is great. There were some points that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I think either most people will not see anything wrong with it, or they'll also feel like it's not a big deal, you know? Like there wasn't any glaring performing issues that I saw, and there wasn't anything that kind of took me out of the general storyline. It was just some things I was like, this kind of, I don't really like this, you know, this feels. But overall, it was still really great. I think it was, you know, acted beautifully. Um, and I think it definitely takes a turn. Like you think it's gonna go one way and it doesn't, and the way that it does go is really, I think it's really great. it makes you question characters and it makes you kind of see them in a different light, but it doesn't do it in a way where you feel like they lose their humanity. So, what happens at the ending, it doesn't make you look at them and be like, oh my gosh, like they're this kind of a person now. You're just like, this is really bad character judgment. But like, I don't know, you for some reason see still a lot of humanity in their characters after all. But it's not even like, well, let me not say that. I was gonna say it's not that big of a deal, but it is. So yeah, but I also heard that it's going to be turned into a TV show, which I'm really excited about, but I wish I knew more about it. Cuz like I've just heard people say like, "Oh, this is going to be turned into a TV show." And I want more information because I love the movie so much. So it's like I want to know when it comes out and exactly where they're going to start cuz I really want them to give us more time with Selah's character because like I don't know, I just want to know everything about everything. I want to know like how Selah got to this boarding school, how she became the leader of the Spades, who came before her, what she had to do, what was her life like before Paloma came along. I want to know more about Paloma's character. I want to know more about the factions. You really don't get enough information about the factions. You get that general overview, but I really want to know like what each of them do and how they affect each other and the other student body. And I just want to know everything. I want to know what happened to Tila because they talk about Tila so much, and they do kind of tell you what happened to her, but like I want to know. I want to know who she is. I want to know who she is. When did she come along? What exactly happened to her? What effect that has on the Spades and everybody else? Because the way that they talk about Tila is very vague, but very kind of threatening in a sense. And I just want to know everything. So I'm excited for the TV show to come out. And I think that a TV show is the best way to handle this because the movie does a great job of like setting everything up, but you definitely have questions. And so I feel like the TV show is just the best way to come after the movie because I need those questions answered. And because this is a great premise to follow up on. So I'm really excited for the TV show. I wish I knew when it was coming out so I could have something to grasp onto. So I can have more information, but also something to look forward to. But I'm excited for it nonetheless. And I still think the movie is great as a standalone. So even if the TV show never comes, or if you've never watched the TV show, you should go watch Selling Spades because I think it's a great movie. Phenomenal, truly. So yeah, I watched that. And then I actually started watching, funny enough, um, I actually started watching Teen Wolf. I was scrolling through Amazon and saw it on there. And I saw that they had the entire series. And so I was like, I kind of want to watch Teen Wolf because I watched it when it first came out. I was obsessed with it when it first came out. But I think I only lasted like half of the series. Like I think by the third season, I was like completely uninterested and never went back to it. And it's crazy because I think it ended in 2017. So it ended not that long ago. And like already watching season one that aired in 2011, I'm like, I want to see where this takes us because season one is so outdated. It's comical. It truly is. It's just like it is the most 2011 thing ever. It it is 2011. Tried and true. And it's just funny watching it compared to now. Like the acting is funny, which I can't I want to get mad at because like it feels so obvious a lot of times. but I can't get mad at it because I know that like their target audience were tweens and early teens, and like I know that as a tween in 2011, like I thought that that was amazing acting. So it makes sense. And with I think the style was just different, like the way that they would handle teen TV shows. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit. I don't know. Maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. I don't know. But yeah, the acting is it's interesting. It's pretty funny. The CGI is the funniest thing of all. Like the little alpha wolf, its face looks like a gremlin with like less discernible facial features, and the hair's non-existent. It just kind of looks like a a cloud essentially. It's very blurry, but it's just it looks ridiculous. It truly does. But like can't expect that. I can't expect much from them because like it was 2011. But I was just watching it and seeing the CGI that is so bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, like thought this was genuinely like scary when it came out. I thought that was me. Okay. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride. It's still entertaining. I will say that. I've been thoroughly entertained. If I'm genuinely watching it, I'm entertained because the storyline seems interesting. If I'm laughing at it because it looks ridiculous, I'm still being entertained because it's still so funny. I don't know. In general, like it's been an interesting. It's been fun. It's been just like a fun TV show to watch, not anything that's like too serious. Especially when I feel like just watching something weird and random, I just go and like watch Teen Wolf. And I haven't gotten that far. I finished the first season and I think now I'm on like the second season. Like I think like the first two episodes of like the second season. So I'm still not that far, but yeah. I mean, I think between the first and second season though, it's improved a lot. I'm just waiting for the CGI to get better. That's what I'm waiting for. What year did like CGI break through? Because I'm rooting for that year because right now it just looks ridiculous. But I mean, it's been a fun ride. I have to give them that. It's been a fun ride. So yeah, I watched Teen Wolf. I'm still watching it, and actually in this few days period before the last time I recorded this, um, I've actually watched some more things. I started one of my summer classes. It's actually like a Maymester class, so it's really short but really intense. And it's had me watch like a few movies every single day, which I mean, you know, they're not the most interesting movies, I'll say. They're just movies that kind of more so fit in line to like the classics of film history. But with that being said, I did watch, surprisingly for the first time, Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee. And I'm not surprised that it was really good. I like, I knew that it was going to be really good, but it was really good. I did really enjoy it. And I liked how it fit into, what I was learning since I was watching it for class. Um, yeah, what I was learning, they were talking about the kind of like the function of a close up and how Spike Lee uses close ups to convey certain emotions with his characters, but also camera angling. It also talked about the scene where Mookie's character throws the garbage can into Sal's pizzeria and how that can be seen as it's called an attraction, which is like essentially like a shocking scene used to invoke some sort of emotional response with the audience, and that emotional response is supposed to be like what the director intended in a sense, if that makes sense. So it's like you watch that scene, and once he throws it in there, I think the general feeling is kind of like rage, not at him, but for him, because you're just generally mad and enraged from Radio Raheem's death. And then, there's a bit of drawback, I think, because even though Sal, he's not that great of a character, and even though like him and his sons, are not that great of people, you just know that they're generally like racist to some degree. You still spend a lot of time with Sal, and him being, I guess, like a decent human being, that where like you still have some sort of subconscious care and empathy for him, so that when that happens, you still feel sad for Sal in a way. If that makes sense. Hopefully that's what other people were feeling. Like for me, that was it. I felt I felt like they deserved they were I felt like they were valid to rage, and I felt like Sal needed some repercussions for the actions he did to Radio Raheem before he died. And kind of sort of not really being a factor in his death, you know? But I'm also like, did his pizzeria deserve to be burned down? I don't know. Maybe he could have just been beaten up, but to be burned down, I feel kind of bad, but also like I see why and I understand why as well. And just I guess in general, I really like the film. I think it's interesting, and it obviously brings up discussions, which I think his movies especially do. But I wasn't. I don't know. Nothing was too shocking. Nothing was that bad about it. I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good movie. And I mean, I've seen some of his other stuff. I just haven't seen Done the Right Thing. And so I like what he does with his subject matter. I like what his movies are generally about. I think that they do a really good job of starting some sort of dialogue. I think it's easy to get lost in his films, or to feel like dialogue got lost in his films. But I feel like it's less his fault than it is like the viewer's fault, you know? It's like I can see how people can get lost in like the surface level of his movies, of like thinking it's one way or it's saying one thing. But I think if you start digging deeper into it, you start to realize that there's a lot of dichotomy in his movies, and that he's kind of making arguments for a lot of different things, not just like each argument, like each side of an argument, but he's saying just a lot. And I think in Do the Right Thing, he does do that especially well. But yeah, I watched it and it was great. And then one of the greatest discoveries I've had thus far, which surprisingly enough, in like right now in this moment, I found out about it and watched it last night. And then I woke up today and watched it again. And I will probably watch it once I get done, with this podcast, with this episode. Because it is just so good. Which is also funny because it is like critically seen as bad. Like critics do not like it, I guess, for whatever reason. It baffles me. I think it has like a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes, so like it's low, you know? Like it's not even like the 60% where it's just not certified. Like it's not even like that. Like no, like it's low. Like it's considered like rotten. But I absolutely loved it. I watched Art School Confidential. It's on the Criterion channel, and which I'm so sad to hear about. But I found it because it was in there, like leaving May 31st little collection. I don't know what they're called. Their little playlist thing. Um, and so yeah, I was just going through. I felt like watching something, but I felt like watching something more art house, more obscure, I guess. And so I saw that, watched the trailer, and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks phenomenal. And I started watching it. And like 20 minutes into the movie, I was like, I absolutely love this movie. And when it finished, I was like, this is one of my new favorite movies of all time. And I just think it's so good. It's hilarious. It's about this kid. His name is Jerome, and he wants to become like the greatest artist of the 21st century, as he likes to say. And so he goes to an art school, and the movie is kind of centered around him trying to find his place in like the art world, trying to figure out what he needs to do in order to be successful, and also kind of like doubting himself as an artist, but also with this like underlying, like this background plot of like there has been a string of murders in this town. And so there's like this background plot of trying to figure out who is murdering these people, who the murderer is, what is going on, but also Jerome trying to figure out who he is as an artist. And then he also comes across this girl, and he kind of like falls in love with her. And so then it's like this movie where he's trying to figure himself as an artist. There's a murder going on in the background, and he's also like falling in love with this other girl in his school. And I don't know, something about it is just so good. It looks so beautiful. I absolutely adore how it looks. I looked online because I wanted to know what they filmed on, specifically the camera, but I guess it doesn't really matter that much anymore. But they did film it on 35 millimeter, which you can definitely see in the movie. And I think it looks beautiful. Like, I love the texture of it all, and just the like general color scheme of it. Like the color grading's really nice. Um, I would consider it to be what I called it when I was watching it at the time. It's like a melancholic comedy, because especially at the beginning, it really hits with like the early 2000s comedy where like it's just a bit, it's like kind of ridiculous, where the comedy is kind of ridiculous, people are kind of caricatures, but I don't know, like it's crazy, but in like a really funny way, but just so like early 2000s. Even in the comedic moments, it keeps this very dark tone to it, both literally with like the cinematography, but also with everything that goes on around the the main character, like especially with these murders, that adds a bit of like, like it's not as funny as you think it is, even though the way that the murders are handled is very comedic. And like there's a scene where you see a murder happening, but it's done very comedically. But still, I think that like there's still a lot of darkness to it that is still really good. um and oh my gosh, oh my gosh, the sound, the score is absolutely fantastic, but not because it sounds good, like not because I like songs from it, but like the way that the movie utilizes sound, one as like a passage of time, but like two, and more importantly, to convey feeling, is genius. It is absolutely genius. I don't know why people hate this movie so much. Like the more I sit and think about it, the more I'm like, this is a phenomenal film. I don't know why everybody hates it. I absolutely love this movie. I think it is like genius. I think it is genius. So, yeah, the sound as feeling, it just it really strikes you at your core, especially when you're watching the movie. I can't describe it to you because you have to watch it and you have to listen to it and you have to see how they use sound to convey feeling, and like it just it just makes you feel everything that the characters are feeling more extreme. I don't want to say anything about it cuz it's so good. But there's one scene where the main character is kind of like heartbroken, which I mean, I feel like we all know this was going to happen. But like the way that they just use sound, they use a very beautiful instrumental, which I think instrumentals in movies is always the right thing to do. I love like a purely instrumentally scored film, and the way that they use that instrumental in there is amazing. I felt so sad in that moment. Like I just felt everything so intensely, and it it's just so good. It was just so good. Like I can't describe how much I love that movie. And I've only watched it twice, and I only saw it last night, but I absolutely cannot get enough of it. And it makes me so mad that like nobody I know has seen it, and not a lot of people have seen it. And so like I just wanna talk to somebody about it, and I just wanna go back and forth because I just think that it's so good, and I want to see if other people like if it's not well received by other people. I don't really care. I just want to see why people don't like it. Because again, the more I watch it, the more I'm like, how do y'all not like this? Like, how do y'all watch this movie and not like it? It doesn't make sense. But I don't know, man. It's everybody's loss. It was directed by, I think his name's Terry Zigoff. He did the documentary Crom, which I haven't seen, but I heard is really good and really twisted, and I kind of want to see it. He also did Ghost World, which I also haven't seen. This is actually the first movie of his that I have watched. But I know that Ghost World is also on the Criterion channel, and I think it's leaving at the end of the month as well. I don't know if Crumb is on there though, but I'm interested to see both of those movies, because I think they're both highly acclaimed. Which again, like I don't know why this movie is not. It really doesn't make any sense to me, but regardless, I absolutely loved it. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been watching for the most part. It's at least the standout stuff that I've been watching. So now on to my weekly recommendations, which I forgot with my little first introductory episode, but now that I'm looking at my notes, I intended on calling this part of my segment Sig Flick of the Week, which I don't know if I'll ever get down to a singular movie or a singular recommendation. This week I have four. No, this week I have three. But, we might get there. I don't know. We can do whatever we want. We can have multiple Sig Flicks. I don't care. But yeah, my Sig Flicks of the week, or of this episode. The first one I have to go with Selah in the Spades, because it is just so good. And we love seeing black teens on screen, black teen girls on screen, black girls on screen. We support, we stand, we love. And the movie itself is just phenomenal. It's beautifully directed, cinematography, color grading, immaculate, acting, great. The idea, the premise, out of this world. And like, it's just such a good movie. And we're so excited for the TV show to come out. So yeah, that's my first recommendation. And that's on Prime. So if you have Prime, I definitely recommend you go check it out. It's really good. Scientifically, you will not regret it. Point blank, period. So And then I have, for TV shows, I have to give it to True Detective season 1. I love The Nine of. I loved Big Little Lies, but True Detective takes the cake. I think that like the writing is just so smart and it is so compelling. The characters are so interesting and layered, and the story takes you for a ride that you really don't expect it to. And I think every minute of the season is worth watching. I don't care if you watch the other 2 seasons. That's beyond me at this point. But you have to watch season 1. You have to watch season 1. True Detective is on HBO, or it's through HBO. You can watch, I guess, on whatever. But if you got HBO, it's on HBO. You can watch it on HBO. But yeah, and then my last recommendation, I have to give it up for Art School Confidential. I just want people to watch it. I just want people to watch it so that I can talk to people about it. I don't care if you hate it. I don't care if you also love it. If you love it, let's start a fan club, honestly and truly. If you hate it, that's perfectly fine with me. I just want to know what other people are thinking because I'm confused as to why people don't like it. I don't see what all these other people are seeing. And so I'm gonna recommend it. If you don't like it, then at least tell me why, and I'll respect your opinion. Maybe, but I think it's phenomenal. If you have a subscription to the Criterion channel, absolutely check it out. Absolutely check it out. But you have to check it out before the 31st of May, 2020, because it's leaving at the end of this month. But yeah, go check it out. I think it's phenomenal. It's hilarious. It's sad. It's beautiful. It's so many things, but it's great. It's great at the end of the day. So yeah, that's this week's episode. Um Hopefully you had as much fun as I did. It still feels weird to be refilming this and to be saying thoughts that I've already felt like I've said, but nonetheless, yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I'm really happy for you to be joining me on this ride, on this journey we're going to have. And I look forward to talking to you next week. So, peace out, Girl Scout.